there were civic, moral, and political problems going on in the world where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego lived. And I want you to remember that they were living in this place. They were living in this wicked place under this wicked king because the people in general, the people of God in general, had turned their back on doing things God's way. Amen? Doing things God's way. And so they were taken into captivity. And we know, I'm going to refer in a little bit to Daniel, use a little bit of this for our preface, but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were called up before the laws of the land, and they were called up because they refused to go against God's plan for life. They refused to go against God's will for mankind and for His people. So it was very clear, you know, the political powers maneuvered the situation around so that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they had to make a choice. They had to make a choice between doing the right thing and doing what everybody else did so they could go along and so that they could make life good.
Yes.
You remember, there was a big statue made, and they were told when the music plays, bow down and give honor to this statue. Bow down and give obeisance, or basically worship this thing. And so the music played, and they wouldn't stand. They wouldn't do anything but stand. They would not follow the crowd. They would not abandon their faith. They would not turn away from their God-given tradition. Brother and sister, you know, I hear a lot of negative things about tradition, but please remember that not all tradition is negative and not all tradition is anti-God. Right. You know, we've got a controversy going on right now. We got some football players and we got some high school kids and some college kids. They won't stand up during the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance. And you have to understand that they have every right to do that. I'm not complaining about it. That's their right to do that. But I want you to understand that that tradition of honoring our flag has been bought and paid for with the lives of thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans. And freedom is not free. And so, and there's several of you in this room. We're veterans and we've served our country and we've done our part. And for me, personally, I take it as a personal insult every time one of those football players acts that way.
That's right. That's right.
That they're saying that what I did to keep them free so they can make their multi-million-dollar contract, well, it didn't mean anything. It wasn't worth anything. That's aside. We have all this civil disorder in our land right now. Have any of y'all noticed that there's a very nasty debate going on between the Republicans and the Democrats right now? Has anybody noticed that? Well, I just take my word for it. It's not of God. And it's not about doing the right thing.
That's right.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were given opportunity to avoid their traditions. They were given opportunity to abandon their faith. They were given opportunity to basically go with the flow and fit in with what everybody else was doing. But you see, these three people are representative for you and I of the real church. They're representative of the real believer. They're representative of the real children of God.
Yes.
And no matter how many times this wicked king or this wicked political system, no matter how many times they were given an opportunity to fail, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, King, we don't care what you do to us. We're not going to change how we worship our God. We're not going to allow your graven image to take our God's place. Because as far as we're concerned, there's only one God, and it's our God. And you know the story. You know what happened. The political power started taking their privileges away. The political power bound them. The political power came against them and threw them into the fiery furnace.
That's right.
Amen.
Have you ever heard that expression? I hear it every once in a while. It's kind of an old expression, but it says, take your best shot. That's what the king did to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Into the fire they went. Not for being evil, not for being wicked, not because they had failed to do what was right. On the contrary, they were thrown into the fiery furnace because they did the right thing.
Amen.
Time out. We'll go back to them in a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I know. Get it. It's called working the crowd.
There you go.
At the same time Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had gotten into their problem, there was another person who was faithful to God who had also gotten into trouble for doing the right thing. Daniel. Daniel was singled out by the political powers. And for just a little bit, I want you to understand what you think about this. Daniel did not change his way of worshiping God, no matter what was going on politically in his world.
Amen.
Amen? He didn't rearrange his habits so that no one would notice what he was doing. He didn't run and hide. You know the story. He had a tradition of 3 times a day opening in the windows. Now the windows that he had open in his house, they faced what direction? East. East. Because he wanted the windows towards Jerusalem, towards God's city, towards the place that he was supposed to be, but he wasn't there because of the political system had gotten rotten. See, we don't always think about this, but the reason that the Hebrew children found themselves in bondage, not once, not twice, but 3 times in their history, is because they abandoned doing things God's way, and they let a corrupt political system get into their nation, get into their mind, get into their heart,